Good evening, everybody. Decided tonight I'll probably do a little bit of story time. If you guys been following me on Facebook, social media, stuff like that, last couple years I've been getting heavily back into disc golf and all that. Then this time of the year, since we got daylight savings stuff like that, it gets darker a lot earlier and all that. I kind of like to play night disc golf here. So yeah, you got disc at night that just can completely glow at night and all that. So I enjoy it. Just kind of adds different flavor to the game and all. That's a lot of fun. But anyways, the reason why for the story tonight. So yeah, start of the night. Tonight was definitely one of my best rounds I played in a really long time. My first 9 holes, I was literally down 9 strokes. I was down 5 strokes. Then hole 10, I actually birdied my last hole too. So I was down 6 going into the backside of the park here. So where I like to play as called Big Bull Creek is over in Edgerton. It's kind of like in the middle of nowhere, very open country and all that. And I think the actual backside of the park is kind of like a nature reserve and all that. So it's just open field, stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, I never had any issues at this park until tonight. So after I finished hole 10, I was approaching hole 11. Hole 11, 12, and 13, I'm on the very back side of the park and all that. You have a creek, and this is the farthest way you're going to get away from the parking lot and all that. So I'm probably like a mile out away from the parking lot. But yeah, anyways, as I was approaching hole 11 in the background, you can kind of hear a bunch of coyotes, stuff like that. You can kind of hear them howling in the background. So it's never really been any major issues for me because growing up, I grew on the farm, stuff like that. If you see coyotes, stuff like that, just rah, yell at them, make noises, howl. They'll run away, leave you alone, pretty naturally, stuff like that. So, but anyways, all the way through hole 11, I'm just hearing them in the background, howling, barking away, stuff like that. Never had any issues. So, hole 12, had a nice tee off, went up to pick my disc and all that. I can still hear him hollering and stuff in the background. And since I'm having a really hot round and all that, like I really want to birdie the shot, have a nice layup, want a little bit of peace and quiet. So as I'm hearing all these coyotes in the background, I went ahead and gave a nice deep howl. So after I did that, the most eerie sound, I had complete dead silence for about maybe 10 minutes and all that. So literally the only thing you could hear from that point after I finished that hole was just literally the sound of the grass crunching underneath my feet and tossing my disc in the basket here in the change class. So I picked up my disc, went to hole 13. Hole 13 is probably the deepest part of that park and all that for the course. So I'm surrounded by all these big, beautiful trees, tall grass. Like with the snow and all that, kind of pat the grass down a little bit. Normally on this course, the grass goes all the way up to your hips and all that in the taller parts. But with the snow and everything, it kind of pushed the grass down probably about me and my mid-thigh and all that. So I'm teeing off hole 13. Didn't have any issues or anything. Picked up my disc, hit the chains in there. And after that, I heard another little howl in the background. The coyotes were a lot closer this time around. I could hear it. But luckily, when I heard it, they were still on the other side of the creek and all that, so I didn't really think too much about it. I'm like, they was probably curious and all that. So I picked up my disc, kind of continue down the course and all that. Because usually how this course is laid out, you go from this kind of the backside of the woods and all. Hole 14 kind of leads you out of the woods. And then if I went from 14 down to 15, 15 I'd be thrown right back into the woods, kind of tall grass area again, all that. But as I was approaching hole 14, I heard the howls again in the background, getting closer to me and all that. So I went ahead and howled again back at him. Howled loud I could, nice and deep, loud. Usually, if you do that, they go away. They leave you alone. They didn't. This time, I could hear them kind of just shifting around the back. So it was kind of interesting. It was a very unusual behavior for coyotes for me because me being loud, me hollering, they were not scared of me. So anyways, I just kept on going farther and farther away. I can kind of hear them behind me. a good distance and all that. The thing at this point, if you guys kind of look around, it was already kind of dark and all that. So I can't see him. I can hear him hollering, and I can occasionally hear a So yeah, I occasionally hear them moving around behind me and all that. So anyways, about halfway up for 14, stuff like that, I felt like I was hearing them getting farther and farther away in the background. And kind of in the distance, I knew where my truck was at, where the parking lot's at. Of course, I howled one more time just to kind of play with them a little bit. But literally, I guess the one that was howling was a coyote farther in the back of the pack or something like that. The coyote that was following me howled immediately behind me and all that. He was probably maybe 100 feet tall grass. I couldn't see him, but he immediately responded to me making noise back and all that. So anyways, I had my bag on me, had my hands up on my chest and all that. I kept on marching my way back to my truck and all that. So anyways, hole 14, there's like a little gap in the fence and all that. It's a little barbed wire fence, wood fence. That goes to hole 18. You can kind of continue on the way back to your vehicle. So I kept on walking. In the background, I can kind of hear him behind me. So he's on wait, so many feet behind me on one side, so many feet on the other side. I can kind of hear him hollering. His buddies barking on the other side. So he's not talking to me, he's talking to his friends around him and all that. So I feel like they're approaching me and all that. So I have to keep on moving. So I'm not running. I'm just walking at a nice slow pace. I know I'm a guest in their home and all that. So I was trying to be nice and easy, working my way out. I don't know how many there are, but I can just hear them going back and forth behind me and all that. So anyways, time I got to the top of my parking lot. I don't know why I'm being a dumbass and all that. So I could see the parking lights, stuff like that. I kind of felt like I was safe and all that. There's plenty of light around me and all that. Went ahead and hollered back at him again. And then, of course, all of them, the one that's been responding to me, kind of howled back with me. And I'm like, he's still right there. I can't freaking see him and all that. So I don't know if anybody has actually seen a coyote before, but coyotes are kind of a brown, gray color and all that. And since it's fall/winter, everything around me is dead and all that. So even if it was like broad daylight, I probably wouldn't even be able to see him anyway. So he was just completely blended in, just following with me all the way back to my vehicle. So time I finally got back past hole 18. I made it to the asphalt parking lot. I turned around and kind of looked in the distance, see if I can see any eyes, because the parking lot has very good lights and all that. So I was hoping to see maybe some eyes or anything, but I think I saw some movement. So from the parking lot, there's like a big grass mound from hole 18. I think I saw some movement. But what scared the crap out of me was like at the very back end of that hole 18, there's a toss and found box. So if you lose a disc, you throw your disc in there. There was a big gash of big movement of grass and all that. So that fucker was literally right beside me as I was leaving the parking lot. Now, parking lot's very bright, so that guy had no fear of me or anything, and he followed me all the way to the parking lot. And then after that, luckily it's a nice facility and all that. I kind of walked my way to my truck, put my stuff in the truck. I go to their facilities and all that. And while I was in there getting a drink, stuff like that, I could still hear him hollering in the background. So, time I got my stuff, went back to my truck and all that. I was kind of looking around, stuff like that. But luckily they kind of moved on to the next field and all that. So it was just a wild experience and all that. So I definitely had my adrenaline through the roof, stuff like that. Because the thing is, like, yes, coyotes are not that big and all that, but I know there's quite a few of them around me and all that. Then this time of year and all that, knows like winter, fall, food might be a little bit more scarce, stuff like that. And I have dogs at home, stuff like that. So I probably have a whole bunch of dog fur on me. I'm a little scruffy and all that. Maybe I look like a big, juicy burger or something like that to him and all that. So, anyways, that was a lot of fun anyway. So, that was definitely a unique experience and all. I never had coyotes follow me for that long, all the way back to my truck and all that. So, I guess if I have to put in like humans' perspective, what kind of happened was, I guess the coyotes were kind of having like a wild party in the back and all that. Then I was a drunk idiot that's yelling in the background, disturbed the peace and all that. So their coyote security kind of help escort me back out of their facility. But anyways, that's enough of my story time. I thought it was very interesting. Like I said, I had never seen anything like that before and all that. I really wish I was able to get my camera to at least get some kind of the video footage, stuff like that, but I didn't want anything to happen, have my phone out, somehow drop it and all that. So anyways, really cool story, I felt like, but I love being out in nature, stuff like that. This is my first time being followed, stalked, or whatever you want to call it. I think they're probably just more curious than anything, but I just couldn't believe how close they got to me and not be scared of me and all that. Like I said, I'm not really that big, but I'm definitely in very good shape and all that. So I feel like I could be very intimidating when I need to be, but having coyotes come that close and not run away after I'm loud and shouting at them. But that was the scary thing too tonight. Like I said, how dark it was. I could not see them. I could hear them. I can hear them wrestling around me, stuff like that. So, but anyways, I'll let you all get back to it. I just thought that was kind of an interesting story. I just kind of had to share it with you guys. So, in case in the future, if I show up on Unsolved Mysteries and all that, it's probably just me howling at coyotes and all. And that time, they probably got me. Yep. Anyways, you'll have a good night.